So once I read that, I was like, wow. Now going back to when I was a kid, going like landfilling doesn't make any sense. That I was only looking at one stage. You add four more stages of damage before you even get to the landfill, and it was like I couldn't unlearn that.
From ALDA, this is the Protect Your Wild podcast, a show about founders, athletes, and influencers, and how their passion for the environment leads to their actions and career paths today. I'm Colin Campbell, and this week I'm having a chat with Ryan Lewis, the founder and CEO of Earth Hero, an online marketplace that brings together all of our favorite sustainable brands into one convenient location. Now, if you want to learn more about Earth Hero, be sure to check out their website at earthhero.com or check out our blog post on them at aldalifestyle.com. And with that, I think you're going to really love this conversation with Ryan. I know I sure did, so enjoy. Ryan, thanks for coming. I appreciate your time here.
Thanks, Colin. It's good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Sweet. So for those of you who don't know, probably said it in the intro, but this is Ryan Lewis, the founder of Earth Hero. Do you want to give the quick spiel, essentially, of what Earth Hero is exactly?
Yeah, so I started Earth Hero to make it easier for people to shop sustainably. We curate the leading brands and products across a huge variety of categories, everyday consumer categories, and vet all those products to make it easier for you to shop that way. We do the work, so essentially you don't have to.
The research behind it all and everything like that. What are some, quick examples of those brands? Like, what are some of your favorites that you have on right now?
Well, we're always uploading brands, and in that process of meeting brands and uploading them, they all resonate with me in some form or another. And that's why we select them. We've got just over 100 brands right now, but again, that's evolving weekly. As far as like favorite brands, Ten Tree is one that comes to mind.
Oh, for sure.
They make really natural clothing, organic clothing, clothing made from recycled content of just good fibers. And every time you buy one of their pieces, they plant 10 trees, and they give you a token that will actually allow you to trace, where those trees are planted. And so that's definitely one of my favorite brands. United by Blue is another brand in that category. They, instead of planting trees, they pull ocean trash for every piece that's sold. So I like brands that bake in doing more good as they grow. Mm-hmm. So as they scale, it's almost a regenerative type of model.
Right.
So many. Bees Wrap is another one. I guess I'm.
Yeah, I talked to them at the OR actually, or I talked to the daughter of the person who created it.
Sarah. Yeah.
Yeah, she's really nice.
And that's an example of not the daughter, but the mom, founder Sarah. She was a mom, and she started living in, I think, New Hampshire, Vermont, somewhere up there. And this was like a hobby of hers, and using beeswax and as a way to remove the need for aluminum foil or saran wrap.
Right.
For those that don't know. And I use it every day. I tend to pack a sandwich.
Nice.
It's one of those
it's
triggers.
Like a product that works. It's like a thing that does its job, and it's like, oh, sweet, and it's better for the environment, obviously.
And I like products that also provide a trigger. So when you're using them, it reminds you of why you're doing it, and then therefore leads to other decisions, like life decisions, versus a product that doesn't necessarily sort of out of sight, out of mind more, not as interactive in your daily life. So, but I could go on and on about brands.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I understand. But yeah, I want to get into your life a little bit more, obviously. So what kind of were you like as a kid, and as a kid, what brought you closer to nature?
When I was 3 years old, I grew up in South Jersey. Not generally a very nature oriented place, certainly in comparison to Boulder. Yeah. Although there's pockets, of course, everywhere. And I also wasn't, I didn't come from a very religious family or anything, but I started asking the question all the time, did God make this or did man make this? And it was...
Oh, interesting.
And I actually kind of remember that, but it recently was brought back up at a family get-together.
That's funny.
And once we started the conversation, it reminded me I was always kind of perplexed at the idea that this planet exists, and
Yeah.
why is there mountains some places and lakes other places, and like kind of like trying to figure out how to decode all of that.
Right.
Because then I see these huge buildings, I'm like, how do dudes build one thing and then the other things are just there.
Yeah.
So I think from an early age there was this this deep desire to sort of have a better relationship with nature in a way, to like try to understand it more.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really necessarily do much with those questions at that point, but I think it just stayed with me. New Jersey was actually, from what I understand, the first state to mandate recycling. So I remember in the 80s when that was happening, that was another thing that like got my attention. I'm like, why? What is recycling?
Yeah, you seem like somebody that's asking why quite a bit, and that's probably a trend that of the constantly learning and getting to uncover more about this stuff as you go on.
Well, it just made me. One question led to the other. So for recycle, well, first of all, why are they mandating? Why is recycling so important? And where does the stuff go that isn't recycled?
Right.
And right away, like the concept of a landfill at a very early age was like, just didn't feel right. I'm like,
I was like, that seems stupid.
how many people are on the planet, and that's the best we can do?
Yeah.
I'm like, where does that end?
Right. What I always think of with landfills is like, we literally come across essentially conceptually landfills from ancient civilizations because that's how it was done then. Let's pile the shit up in some area that's not right where we live and then leave it over there. Like,
and it was all natural back then.
Yeah. And then at least
a big composter.
Right. Yeah. At least their stuff made a little more sense. But as far as the idea goes, it hasn't really evolved a whole ton outside of now we can separate it out a little bit.
And even that's,
and we're still shipping it off to other countries. We're still not handling it internally.
And really just a small percentage actually makes it, through that process. But it quickly became sort of maddening to me, just the logic of how we're doing all that.
Right, absolutely. Did you do any like outdoor sports or things like that kind of played into it?
As a kid, I was in New Jersey until I was 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up playing baseball and, recreationally, a bunch of other sports, like soccer, hockey, and things like that, but nothing that really put me in nature, so to speak. My parents started skiing when I was 11, so that was really the first time I started to get out into, like, real nature.
Yeah.
And that definitely inspired me at that point to kind of leave suburban New Jersey or occasionally the big city, which was Philadelphia, and just be in the sprawling like open space, which is actually hard in a place like New Jersey. In Colorado, where we live, you drive a few miles in any direction and you have nothing but land. Yeah,
especially Boulder in particular is, I like to climb, and you go into the canyon, and now, I guess there's a road that runs through, but you're kind of it's like you in the canyon. It feels cool.
It does, and a lot of people in this country and the world don't have that access.
Right.
In New Jersey, you could go to a park, or
it's like, well, there's grass here, so enjoy the grass.
And there's some bigger, like the Pine Barrens. There are some bigger, natural protected areas.
Yeah.
But it's different because it was a destination, and we'd get there, a few times a year. In Boulder, you could do it every day. If you just
that's 100% why I came here. Yeah, it's and especially in the Gun Barrel area, being out of even the city of Boulder, there's just bike paths all around here, and plenty of opportunities to just kind of get a little bit of silence.
Yeah, it's huge, and I don't think people that have never experienced another life, way, probably do take that for granted. But if you don't know that nature's worth fighting for, sometimes it's hard to fight for it.
Yeah, 100%.
I've never really got a chance to experience it.
Right. Yeah, and hopefully like programs that get especially like urban youth, anybody that's growing up in the city and doesn't have those opportunities to get out and expose them to all the world out there is, I think, one of the most important things to change the next generation, because there are lots of kids hearing things now, at least like in theory and education and whatnot. But you got to experience it. If you're gonna, I think, love nature and want to do something to protect it, you really got to experience it.
Yep.
So did you always have like an entrepreneurial spirit as a kid? Were there any things that you did that might have like made you think, maybe I'm going to start a company one day?
Yeah, I did. My dad was an entrepreneur. He was an entrepreneur.
It's a common theme I've seen for sure. People come from entrepreneurs, they realize it's an option.
Yeah, I stuttered there because I'm like, was he an entrepreneur? Is he an entrepreneur? I sort of like straddling that, past present thing. He's in his 70s now and slowing down. But so I grew up in that environment. My dad never really projected that on me, but I just observed it. I saw that the creativity and the flexibility and what it did for our family. And I had a lot of small businesses, a lot of kid type of
ventures,
starting with like mowing the lawn and and then in college as I got more a little more savvy, I was doing home movies I was doing wedding slideshows. So when people would get married, we put together the photo montage. Before that was like something you could do in your sleep.
Right. Before some more companies got built around making that easier.
Right. And actually ironically enough, the only time I was really an employee was at a company that made that software. That like back in like in 2000 when you bought a PC, the software that came bundled on your PC to be able to make your own DVDs was basically the software that we were making. And I was there for about 2 years. I just couldn't really manage my I couldn't get my head around like the restrictions that were put on me creatively as an employee at this particular company. And I learned a lot. It was a great experience, but I definitely learned that I just need to go out on my own and do something. And so yeah, I think it was at a very early age. I just didn't know it at the time.
Right. Yeah. I in a lot of these conversations, I've been hearing similar things of like, it does, like, it's like a bug, like an itch that certain people just need to scratch of like, well, I want to do my own thing. And there's this opportunity here. These people came to me asking if I could help them out with this. And I bet there's others just like them. And then obviously that translates right into what you're doing now with Earthrio, whereas like, I imagine it must have started first of you wanting to change your lifestyle, shop sustainably, and you go, what the hell? I have to do all this research and all these brands and then get through all these curtains to figure out who's legit and who's kind of just, putting out green propaganda to try to bump sales. And it is a legitimately kind of laborious process as a consumer to go through that on your own.
Yeah, no, almost to the point where you're not going to make it out the other side.
It's not, most people, it's just not worth doing. It's like, it's at least probably in the past decade, it's like the hardcore people that really, really care are the ones who are going to do that. And the average consumer is kind of just, left to fend for themselves in a way.
No, you're exactly right. It's a real challenge. And to your point, that's why, we started Earth Hero and is to essentially remove that obstacle and that challenge.
Yeah. So, in starting Earth Hero, I guess, what were some of your first things, like problems with the environment where you're like, this is some serious stuff that's happening, and I think I'm equipped to be somebody to make a difference here?
My aha moment when it came to that particular question was in Costa Rica. I was living there with my family for about 1.5 years, and I came across this book by Annie Leonard, who's now the executive director for Greenpeace.
Do you remember the name of the book by chance?
I do, very clearly. It's The Story of Stuff. Okay. And it's actually started as it's like a 10-minute animation kind of describing the five distinct...
the animation, that's right, okay.
Yeah, so it started that way, and then she turned it into a book, which is now almost 10 years old. I think there's maybe been a revision, but essentially the whole book breaks down into the fact that the way stuff is made and the path that it takes are 5 distinct stages, starting with extraction, getting the material from the planet, all the way to end of life. And in between there's transportation, there's the actual use of the product, there's manufacturing of the product. So there's all these distinct stages, and she then goes into detail as to the harm that's happening within each of the stages. And it's this linear line, like
every step
pull
leaves
from
a
the
footprint,
earth,
basically.
damage the earth, damage the earth, damage the earth. Use the product for like, it's crazy, like 99% of stuff that's made is discarded within 6 months. Like it's something, I might have those numbers slightly off, but it's something really crazy where our entire consumption paradigm is disposable. There's very little that's made to last a lifetime, or multiple generations for that matter, or come back into the more of a circular path, back into the earth, composting or upcycling or some other intended use. So once I read that, I was like, wow. Now going back to when I was a kid, going like landfilling doesn't make any sense. That I was only looking at one stage. You add 4 more stages of damage before you even get to the landfill, and it was like I couldn't unlearn that. Just like, and then in addition to being down in Costa Rica, which is known for its green initiatives and all the front pioneering stuff they're doing down there, the reality is I was spending time in the ocean, surfing and on the beaches, and just like the stories you hear, you'd be dodging trash and stuff would wash up in the morning, and it was just, again, it was this echo chamber of how I can't not help.
You can't ignore it at that point. When it's in your physical life, it's hard to like, just hard to ignore at that point.
And at that stage, I was looking to start something. I had I've moved on from my last business and taking sort of an intentional time to figure it out. So that once I went through that experience, and my past company was from a model standpoint, distribution, e-commerce, digital marketing, that type of thing. I had all that from my last company, so it was just kind of swapping products and markets, which gave me the confidence of like, I think I can actually get my head around what it would take, to start this thing. Yeah,
absolutely. What brought you and your family to Costa Rica in the first place?
It was a combination of several things. I was looking to sell my company that I was currently at and the reason for that was I wanted to do something that was more connected to who I was or am,
right?
And really help society more directly. That company was servicing restaurants, which was fine, but I had done that for about 11 years and was ready to move on. The other thing is my kids I have 2 boys, but at the time they were, I want to say 8 and 10. So it was a good time in their life to do something like that. I wanted to kind of get them out of the Boulder bubble and experience life outside of not only Boulder, but, the States and this culture.
Yeah.
And expose them to a second language,
That's cool.
and I wanted to learn Spanish as well.
Did it work?
It worked. Actually,
or are you surfing too much? You're like, I'll do the Spanish lessons later.
Well, let me tell you, in the lineup, you get to do both at the same time, and it's not always pretty. But no, it was a great experience. I did pick up enough Spanish to feel comfortable now, hacking my way through it.
Nice.
I actually took classes for a good portion of it and tried to take it seriously. And so yeah, just kind of a combination of things. And Costa Rica itself was part of it too. It's close to the States, easy to get back,
right?
To visit, and they had a great school down there.
Oh, okay,
that
cool.
Really resonated with my wife and I. And
is like an international school kind of thing, or?
It is an international school. It was, classes were kind of divided. It was only 50% Spanish, 50% English. They would teach some classes completely.
And then pretty diverse as well, I'd imagine.
Super diverse.
Yeah, actually, which you don't really get in Boulder a whole lot. It's a weird part when I moved here. I was like, this is kind of a lot of the same type of dude here. Everybody loves the outdoors. It's like all, a bunch of upper middle class white folks, basically. It's kind of weird. But
yeah. No, it was definitely more diverse, and it was a great experience. But if there's one thing I learned, it's the strength of the Boulder community, and just, I guess I value community more after that experience, because while Costa Rica had a good community, it wasn't as intentionally tight as I think I was used to. And now having returned here, I feel that for sure. There's a pretty special place, full of intention.
Yeah.
That can be very contagious.
That is a good point about something that makes it pretty unique here. There are a lot of people trying to do good things, or just achievers, I guess. Even lots of professional athletes here as well, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is a similar story I guess we hear often as well, of like it's either Bali or Costa Rica. I've heard both of those specific places that people have gone to where they're affected by their experiences there, and it fundamentally changed the course of their life. So it sounds like I need to go there and see what's up.
It's interesting you say that, because we almost moved to Bali.
Oh, really?
And the reason is there's a school there called the Green School.
Okay.
It's almost entirely made out of bamboo, and those guys are just doing incredible things.
Nice.
The curriculum and around, teaching kids how to be global citizens and, make the world a better place through environmental practices and just cultural acceptance. It's an amazing school. And we were convinced to go until we made that, after we made that decision, we stumbled across Costa Rica, not looking to move there, just to kind of a quick getaway, and found that school in Costa Rica, and then
nice.
Yeah, we kind of pivoted, but
That's
you should
cool.
go there. It's a great.
I'm very interested. I was thinking on doing my next trip, trying to do like Argentina or something, or definitely get somewhere in South America is what I was aiming for. But now I've just heard Costa Rica and Bali specifically mentioned so much. It's like, maybe I should bump it up on my list a bit and get out there sooner than later.
Yeah, there's a big world.
Yeah.
It's just, fortunately we get a few more, we have some time to get around.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so sorry, I had to switch it to time there. And
No worries.
what are I'm gonna do real quick, basically kind of like a rapid fire questions kind of thing. So I got like a good mix of some insightful questions, but some silly things. So
Okay.
hopefully your game. So the first one, would you rather sleep in a tent or in an RV?
I've done both.
You've done both. Okay.
I'd rather sleep in a tent.
Okay.
But the
that.
RV definitely has its place.
For sure. Yeah. So what are 3 words you'd kind of use to describe yourself now versus 3 words when you were a kid?
Well, when I was a kid, I was impulsive, pretty selfish, like I think looking back. Let's see. I think, God, going back that far is tough. But,
Yeah.
I had a little bit of mischievousness in me too.
Okay.
I'd find trouble more than I think my parents wanted me to.
Yeah.
Fortunately, nothing that carried over into my adulthood. But I think, at this point in my life, I like to consider myself adventurous, spontaneous, and intentional.
Yeah. Nice. I like that. I mean, everybody has those big developments, and especially people that kind of constantly ask why. I think that's a big part. As you learn more about yourself too.
For sure.
I was like a bully when I was a little preschool kid, and then just one day you grow up a little bit and you realize that's a shitty thing to do. And
yeah, I had a really hard time thinking outside myself. I mean, which I guess is the definition of selfish. But I wasn't doing it because I thought it gave me an advantage. It was just like a unconscious thing.
Right. It's kind of part immaturity, obviously, of just being a kid and being in your own world,
Exactly.
in your own head, and yeah. So, what do you think would win in a fight between an ostrich or a koala bear?
Wow, ostriches have always scared me. They're just massive birds.
They're intimidating.
I don't
feel like they could have a pretty vicious pecking kind of action.
And they got those claws.
Yeah.
They got the height advantage. I'm gonna go ostrich.
Okay. What if it was like 2 koalas? Do you think 2 could take them down?
I've really never seen
one on the back.
Yeah, I don't know. Koalas have always been kind of cute to me. I didn't even know they're actually like.
I don't think they're vicious. I definitely don't think they're an attacker, but
Yeah, and that just might be like a fairy tale in my mind. Maybe they're just really extremely predatory. But I don't think I don't know. Ostriches, they look really mean
I
to
think
me.
ostrich could throw down, to be honest. Yeah. I think I'm with you there. So if you could have a brunch with two people, one living and one dead at the same time, so it's like a 3-person brunch here, who would they be? You gotta think how they might interact too. That's another interesting element of it.
Yeah, Steve Jobs comes to mind.
Okay.
I guess I'm limiting it to some of my, business mentors, good, bad, and ugly.
Yeah.
Steve certainly had his,
A lot of there are two sides, kind of the innovator and then the
manager.
whip cracker. Yeah.
But I think, maybe, Steve and say, like an Yvon Chouinard, from founder of Patagonia, would be a fun That would be a fun conversation.
That would be cool. Yeah, the life that guy has lived. Jeez.
I had the opportunity to meet him about a month ago.
Really?
I didn't have lunch with him, but he's absolutely just a unbelievable.
Still pretty with it, right? And
for sure. He's fighting harder than ever. For what he believes is right for the planet, and I got the opportunity to see him speak, and he's been a superhero when it comes to what he's been able to accomplish. So yeah,
in his personal and professional, it's mind blowing to me that like what he's been able to achieve from his like climbing standpoint, the adventures he's had, and then somehow growing like to do one or the other is a lifetime's worth of stuff for most people. But
yeah,
he's definitely something else.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So Yvon Chouinard and Steve Jobs, that would be interesting. What do you think is kind of your next important milestone with Earth Hero?
I think we need to get to a point where we've got a complete assortment of products. So when people hit the site, they find what they're looking for on a more consistent basis. It's going to take time. We've got about
Absolutely
3,000 products on the site today, but I think once we get to about that 10,000 mark, based on what we've been able to kind of carve out, we think that that'll sort of come together quite naturally, and there'll be a tipping point where we at that milestone, I'm hoping that we've got a core group of customers that really depend on us for their shopping.
Yeah, and when you cover everything like that too, now you don't have to basically, you can actually do like price comparisons and look at competitors in the environmental space within this marketplace.
That's right.
As opposed to playing the game of going to Amazon or saying I've seen this, now let me see maybe the less environmentally friendly options out there, and now you can compare, basically get options within the environmentally friendly space too. And lastly, what animal do you think you're most similar to, and why?
I've been asked this question before. I don't have an official spirit animal.
Okay.
I'm still looking and searching.
Yeah, I don't think I necessarily do either, to be honest. It'd be like some weird hybrid of just mishmash different aspects of some different animals together.
I think being like an eagle,
Yeah.
I like the idea of being able to fly.
Yeah, and being on the top of the food chain, not having to worry about getting wrecked by another eagle.
I've always been inspired by being able to see, visibility, long range vision. So to have that type of visibility seems attractive too.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, I got asked in an interview once about what kind of kitchen utensil you would be. And I've thought about animals before, and I've thought about other things, and I know more about other things, I think, than kitchen utensils.
So what'd you pick?
I did what did I say? A whisk, because I said I think I'm good at working with a lot of ingredients, blending things together, and
that's a good answer.
Yeah, and I was like, damn, I nailed that shit. I was pretty proud of myself.
That's good.
Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah, hopefully, it's good to know that you acknowledge the viciousness of the ostrich and, like tents. So important stuff we're discussing.
Oh, yeah. critical.
Yeah. But to dive more into Earth here, I guess the reason that you're here and want to promote, who I guess were some of your biggest supporters going through this process? Obviously, as a founder, it's really taxing on yourself and your family, anybody that's around you, because it's a very involved thing. Like, it came from a family business too, and it kind of pulls everybody into it in one way or another. So who are kind of some of your biggest supporters coming up?
My dad was a huge mentor and is a huge mentor. He had started a couple businesses, and we had the opportunity to work together at one of them, and he was a huge help. I also, people I've worked with in the past, some of my my past team when I was starting this was very willing to jump in and help, and
Nice.
to help get some of the early relationships going, just to get the thing off the ground. My wife is amazing. I mean, it sounds so cliche, but it's just, to your point, like, you can't compartmentalize starting a business and then go home and have that not exist.
Yeah, you can't.
So there's
you can't completely just shut it off and be like, all right, family time, and it always kind of will interplay.
And that sounds cliche too, but it's so true. You have to have strong relationships to come out of this alive and to be supported along the way. And then I go back to community. I mean, being in Boulder, everybody for the most part wants to help. So whether you meet someone that knows someone, or with introductions, or even more formal networking events, it's amazing the amount of hands that have been extended to us each and every day in some ways. It's been a wonderful thing to be a part of. And then finally, of course, even though they're on the payroll, our team is phenomenal. We've, everyone that's joined us is just a huge contributor. We all have, very passionate minds, and building a company from scratch is really messy. So you've got to have a team that's willing to embrace the thrash and help you through it.
Yeah, and when they all are kind of share the why, behind it, another cliche, right? Let's see how many we can throw out there, but when they share that passion, like you said, and are able to specialize in whatever their strengths are, it definitely is a great thing to bring teams together. And to your point about family business, I grew up in that same kind of environment, and when we'd have a big order come in, I was packing boxes as an 8-year-old or something. I was helping tape up boxes and stuff. So I think will have ultimately a positive impact on your kids, as long as it's not something that dominates their life, or that ends up creating too many sacrifices for the company as opposed to for them. And the next thing is competing in this age of Amazon. Obviously, I think people just shop differently now, right? Like, most people, including myself being guilty of it a lot of times, the default when you're looking for something is like, pull up Amazon
and then search.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, what do you kind of do to try to compete? Also, Amazon, like your Sala shoes. Sorry, I just noticed that. Yeah. We talked to Guy in an earlier episode that we did. They're pretty sweet. I got my next pairs. I think I'm going there.
Well, you can get them on Earth Hero. So.
Perfect.
No, it's they're a great brand.
Yeah.
So, Amazon has redefined what shopping means by making it convenient, fast, and cheap to some extent. I think that the pricing is an evolving thing that's going on, because I think when Amazon 10 years ago, it was sort of known for undercutting retailers and all that. I feel like that's sort of been neutralized to some extent, but different topic. So how do we compete? I don't really view it as competing with Amazon. That would be, I think, challenge to really
Sure,
to
yeah,
view it,
yeah.
to really try to compete. But I think we just sort of carve out our own way of doing things based on what we think people are ready for, or need, and I guess some tactical things that are different with Earth Hero versus Amazon are that all of our shipments are carbon neutral, and our
That's
company's
awesome.
carbon neutral. So when you buy from Earth Hero, you're not adding carbon to the planet. And we do that through carbonfund.org.
Okay.
We're also B Corp certified, meaning
Right.
that all of our operations and business practices have been vetted and certified by B Corp. And for anyone that doesn't know who they are, basically they're certifying companies that are using business as a force for good. And it took us over a year to get through that process, so it's very intensive. We're also members of 1% for the planet, so every time you buy from Earth Hero, a minimum of 1% of your purchase is going directly back towards nonprofits that are doing good.
Right. And similarly, a lot of your brands that you carry, also 1% for the planet, also B Corps, right?
That's right. So yeah, in the case of, like we were talking earlier with Tentree or United by Blue, like you're doing double good because we're buying from them, so that's kind of creating, it's triggering their good, and then
Right.
you're just, but when you're buying from us, you're triggering another purchase we need to make from them, and then we're also doing good. So you're sort of like, it's an exponential type of situation where as all these companies and Earth Hero scale, it's like doing more good is baked into that growth. We also have like real people you can talk to. You can pick up the phone and call us. You can communicate with us through email and live chat, and you can come see us in person. We're real people that have real conversations that are fully vested in our mission.
Yeah.
There's an authenticity to Earth Hero that Amazon is mechanized, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that it's different in terms of what Earth Hero is providing. We talked about the fact that we're vetting every single product. So, when you do make purchases, that good is happening.
Yeah.
If you want the detail in that, we provide it on every product page. We've got over 100 logos that we've mapped to every product.
That was one of the things when I first saw. I was like, damn, that's a good idea.
Well, we want to make it really clear as to
Yeah.
why these products are eco-friendly, because there's confusion around that. And I think we also lead with our brands. So, it's not necessarily just products. Every brand has a story with videos and photos and basically like why we choose them and why we think what they're doing is good. Tons of content on our site, so we really want to make it more of an emotional lifestyle experience versus I need to buy a thing.
Right.
And that's really at the end of the day, it boils down to shopping this way is more about a lifestyle than it is about healing the planet. That happens through mindful shopping, but we like to think that we're representing a paradigm shift towards mindless consumption to mindful consumption.
Mm-hmm.
And it empowers people to feel like and to know that they're part of that solution and that change. When you're kind of out there on your own just sourcing for yourself, that may work for some people, but for others it can start to feel more hollow and less connected. And again, it comes back to how many news stories or headlines can you read about what's happening and then shut it down and pretend and go on to your quote unquote normal routines.
Overwhelming amounts of guilt a lot of people, and myself included, shopping. It's like almost anything you buy, if it isn't something that's directly from a brand that you've vetted and stuff, there's a big guilt aspect that's associated with it that's helping curb the behavior.
Well, and then the opposite of that is we've been around for almost 2 years now, so we're starting to I'm starting to run into people that have actually heard of us and experienced us, and the experience is quite rewarding because people light up like, oh cool, Earth Hero. Like, I don't think that Amazon's provoking that same reaction. And
No.
I think what's happening there is it's not Earth Hero, it's the fact that they feel good about their contribution, regardless of who and how. But that there was a natural pivot that took place. They activated on that guilt on some level, and it feels good.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that people like to feel good.
Yeah.
You know?
And yet Amazon's the one with the smile on their thing. So inaccurate.
Yeah. Well, I think Amazon has its purpose. And they're not, it's not an all bad or an all good thing, but I think what they've done is created a need for alternatives.
Yeah.
For certain people.
I got an idea for you guys. I think like Amazon, you should start investing in a streaming service for just nature documentaries.
Yeah. Hey, we've actually talked about when it comes to like content, movies, books.
Yeah.
Doing just that, like we do with products. Doing that.
100%.
But we need some help.
Yeah.
We're not in the streaming business yet.
Yeah. That's I don't know. 2 years down the line,
gotta have
there, right?
You gotta have long range plans.
100%. Yeah. And the other thing, obviously, with capitalism, the interaction in general of capitalism and the environment this is kind of like a big conversation that's happening now, and at the outdoor retailer, there's the climate neutral panel that they kind of started diving into this quite a bit, and I think it's for any company, something to be considerate of. But I just want to kind of ask what your views are on how a capitalist economy can balance itself out with the idea of sustainability and
Yeah, it's a big topic, and at the end of the day, consumers really drive a lot of that behavior. At the end of the day, close to 70% of the total GDP, the total amount of dollars spent in this country comes from consumers. So consumers are either going to buy from companies doing good because they figure that out, or over time, policy makes it so they don't have a choice in the matter.
Right.
We don't sell lead paint anymore, for example.
Right.
So I think, that example, the policy part of it comes, but not until the consumer demand is there. And politicians aren't going to support any policy that's got less than 50% support, or they're not going to get elected, right?
In theory, yeah.
In theory, right? Yeah, but the problem is if a movement is important but small, like I think the sustainability movement, and we're definitely now, it's growing, and you're starting to see the policies kick in where, municipalities are saying, you can't buy this product anymore in our city, the plastic bag bans and straw bans and things like that. But my summary response to that is it's a combination of things. There's no silver bullet.
Mm-hmm.
I think there needs to be demand to want different than what we have today in terms of capitalism. And things like B Corp, are popping up to give consumers more clarity around what doing good is. There's companies like Earth Hero or plenty of others, out there that are curating quote unquote good to make it easier for consumers. And I think, flash forward 20, 50 years from now, social capitalism is going to be it's kind of like saying, a business has a toll-free number, right? Like that's so dated.
It's like, okay.
That used to mean something, right? Maybe
Yeah.
I'm dating myself now, but like, of course you can call a company and not get charged for it.
Right.
And I think we're going to get to that point with businesses where, of course, a business is doing
It's
good.
the new standard.
Like, why would, they wouldn't be successful. Nobody would buy from them if they weren't. Just like nobody would call a business if you got charged. So I think we're going that direction. It's up to the entrepreneurs to make it easier for consumers to make that transition. But in the process, in the background, holistically, I think everyone at this point is thinking about, on some level, how are we going to get out of this mess? So There's this open mind on some level, that's going to allow for that change to happen.
Yeah, and so I guess that the focal point of that is consumer driven, right? What challenges do you think these massive companies that are already here gonna have in making those transitions to try to like catch up?
I think
just to expand on that a little, I want to point out, like in the shoe industry, for example, right? You do see there's a couple like select models with, say, Adidas, right, that are incorporating recycled plastic and making an effort. But then you have companies like Saula that are being a lot more innovative and coming out, like branching out and kind of investing like wholeheartedly into this. So yeah, I guess what are those challenges of the big companies that are already here gonna have?
I think we've seen this played out in food. If you look at the
Oh, good
organic food
point.
movement,
Yeah.
Coca-Cola, for example, like they don't make the healthiest product. I think we'd all agree. So, a company like that got into that, or basically transitioned by buying up the startups that were making healthier products, the juices and the waters and that type of thing. And I imagine, but in other cases, like Adidas, I think is a good example. They'll have like their own innovator lab, startup within a startup type of thing.
Right.
And I think both models exist, and you can do both at the same time. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of innovation going on, like you said, from companies that nobody's heard of, and a lot of the ones that make it are going to sell to bigger, more established companies.
Yeah, I guess part of my worry is in that process of buying out these kind of up and coming brands that then they'll get plugged into this massive bureaucracy of a company, and then you might have a drop off in quality or something because of trying to cut costs. Like 510 got bought up by Adidas, and then immediately 510's climbing shoes just went to shit.
Yeah, and you're gonna, there's no perfect formula. I think you'll see
Right.
both sides. I like hearing stories. For some reason, the Campbell soup
Nice.
story comes to mind where they bought.
Those are my people. Campbell, last name.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, they bought I can't. It was a baby food or a kid snack company. I'm forgetting the name. But what's cool is this company was doing food right. The CEO of Campbell, was obviously a part of that acquisition. Immediately sat down with the CEO of the company they just bought, and Campbell Soup made a big ton of changes as a result of learning from
I like
the
that.
innovators
Yeah.
about better ways to do things, and really just proactively tried to indoctrinate a lot of that into their culture. So there's one of the brands that comes to mind that we currently stock. Here's a perfect example: L'Oreal, huge like hair care brand, right? They had an employee that wanted to go out and start their own hair care brand, but with a compostable container and all this stuff. They worked out a way to say, you know what, stay with us. Let's just do a different brand within L'Oreal, go out and make it happen. And as we speak, like they're using that as sort of their innovation lab to hopefully backtrack, back funnel some of what they learn into, their huge global, they're like a multi-billion-dollar company.
Right. That's pretty cool.
So I see, but to your point,
it can go both ways.
It can go both ways.
Sure.
But I think the deeper and deeper we get into this movement, it's going to become harder and harder to like just do spreadsheet analysis and cost cutting to make those acquisitions work.
Right.
So
yeah,
I'm an optimist
real,
when it comes to that.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and I those are some insightful examples I didn't know about personally, but I appreciate your thoughts on that. That's what we'll kind of be watching over the next few years, how it plays out. So to close it out here, there's a couple questions I'd just like to ask everybody and get different takes on. So feel free to think outside of the box a little bit.
Yeah.
But the first one is, how would you go about explaining sustainability to a toddler? Or how do you go about kind of indoctrinating your own kids with those ideas?
I think it just comes down to, with every interaction you have in your daily life, is it harming the planet or the people on the planet or not?
Mm-hmm.
And it is a broad topic, but it's literally like, think of, as you walk from your morning until evening, you're buying things, you're using things, you're you're interacting with things, and to develop a mindset around how is my behavior impacting the planet. Asking the question is 90% of the effort.
Yeah.
Because human behavior will naturally, I think, take care of making sure the answer is a good one over time.
Right.
You can't unlearn that thinking. And when you are thinking that way and the answer is not what you want, even if you don't change that moment, as you live your life, you're going to get better and better over time.
Right. It's like, what is it, the cognitive dissonance or whatever between what your actions might be and then when you are asking those questions and the answer is, well, I should be doing something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, eventually you start to mold yourself.
No, for sure. And, this is very real for me because I do have kids, and you can't force feed them, but at the same time, I think the responsible thing to do now, especially for for kids today, is like they shouldn't be ignoring what's happening because
Right.
It's unfortunate for them, but we're not leaving them in a great situation.
Yeah.
So it's not something that they'll have the luxury to ignore. So you might as well
arm yourself a little bit.
Just accept what needs to be done, right away, and then you can hopefully be a part of the change.
Right. Cool. So what do you, in your own lifestyle, what do you think is one of your biggest weaknesses and sustainability and areas you could improve?
I love to travel, and
that's a tough one to.
I do my best when I travel. I always have a water bottle and a coffee mug.
Yeah.
So I and I do what I can, but I know there's just it's just not a sustainable thing to do. But at the same time, I travel for inspiration, and it's something that I do think about. But at the same time, I can't not travel. So there is a and that it's a good question because we all know there is no perfect lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not about white knuckling this human experience. You have to pick your poison, so to speak. But again, if you're mindful of it, like, you're going to do the best job you can. Yeah,
and that's one of the things I always come back to, because I just like to point out that even those conscious people have areas where it's like, you do have to kind of live your life, and there's certain experiences, especially with traveling, that change you fundamentally and who you are, and it's hard to really put a value on that, and there are, you still have to do your best in certain ways. But to anybody that's maybe not as deep into sustainability, don't be discouraged if you feel like there's just too much ground you'd have to make up. It's just taking steps at a time. And on that note, I guess what's like one of those steps that you'd immediately recommend somebody to take
to be more sustainable?
To be more sustainable.
Yeah. I think that's a question that gets asked a lot, and I think that the best step you can take if you're just getting started is to think about the things that you use one time and throw away, especially if it's part of your daily routine. If you're a daily Starbucks guy or girl, bring your own coffee mug. And if that sounds inconvenient, then just sit with that for a few minutes. Sit with that for a few minutes and just envision all the coffee cups that you're putting in the landfill that'll never degrade. It's like,
right.
Again, even if you feel like, well, it's still too inconvenient. Well, then fine. Keep doing your one-time use. At some point, you're going to have this epiphany. Trust me, it's not that big a deal. You'll survive. I think things like Ziploc bags for like lunches, if school lunches. If you are that person that uses a straw with every day, or gets a smoothie, there's
right, the single-use ones across the board. The K-Cups, that's one that annoyed me when the K-Cups thing blew up. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah,
Is
that
it coffee's that hard to make?
That being said, we do sell a box through TerraCycle that you can recycle those K-Cups.
There you go.
So if your office is doing it, or you have a friend that's just breaking the rules, it's a good gift.
Yeah.
And also is
Slide to your roommate that's buying those K-Cups.
Yeah.
Give him a wink.
And there's in fact, I have an espresso machine at home that doesn't use K-Cups. It grinds the beans
Nice.
fresh. It's zero waste, and the coffee's fresher. So there's really no reason to use those. But
Right. Yeah,
yeah,
I do the French press myself. It's an easy one. Use the same glass thing over and over and over, and yeah, works great.
But yeah, I'd say, remove the single use items, and also start paying attention to, like, trying to create trigger points when you throw stuff away. What are you releasing into the trash can, and is there an alternative to that?
Yeah. One strategy that I like to tell people, if there's, like, taking the Starbucks, for example, right? Take, just one of your trash bags, keep it in your car, keep it somewhere, and every time you drink or have your Starbucks, throw it away in the same bag. So you see it all together, and you see how it'll pile up and how quickly that bag will fill itself. It'll blow you away. And that will usually trigger your mind and be like, okay, it might be slightly inconvenient to bring my cup, but I did not even, realize how much waste I was actually creating just in this one habit.
Yeah, I'm naturally a minimalist, so I don't like to accumulate anything, whether it's a straw or a new bike. Really, a new bike might be nice for a little while, but
Yeah.
I just, I am of the mindset that if you just take less stuff into your life, you're gonna live lighter, you're gonna be freer, you're gonna have more dollars in your bank account, and the planet's gonna be a healthier place.
Absolutely. And with that, I guess, are there any kind of last notes or messages you might want to put out there to the world?
I'm an optimist. I think that I have faith that we will get ourselves out of this mess. But if you're at that point in your life where you haven't really activated yet, but this topic resonates with you, just start.
Yeah.
Just
I like
start.
it. Just start.
Just start.
Perfect. And with that, thank you, Ryan. Really appreciate your time. And I hope some people got some great stuff out of this, and we'll obviously go check out Earth Hero at earthhero.com, spelled how you think it's spelled, and check them out on Instagram at Shop Earth Hero. Cool.
Awesome. Thanks, Colin.
Thanks. And remember, protect your wild. Thanks again, y'all, for listening to yet another interview. I really do hope you go and check out Earth Hero. You'll discover a ton of the brands on their website that we've been talking to on these podcasts, actually. So remember, if you can, please subscribe, please leave a review. It's the best thing you can do to help us grow this thing and continue to have some awesome conversations. So appreciate you guys, and catch you next week.